Welcome to the Lean Out Your Business podcast, a show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs accelerate business growth and simplify success. I'm your host, Krista Grasso, and I've been working with businesses for more than 2 decades to help them lean out and optimize what's working while eliminating anything that's not adding value. So if you are ready to get more time back in your day, more profit in your business, and to do business differently, growing and scaling on your terms, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about growing your team to scale your business. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Jamie Van Cuyk to the show because she is an expert in all things growing your team. And so we're going to dive in and talk about all those hiring related questions that you probably have. So Jamie, welcome. I'm so excited that you're with me today.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Krista.
All right, let me tell you a little bit about Jamie, and then we are going to dive right in, and we're going to start talking about some scaling and some team hiring. So Jamie Van Cuyk is the owner and lead strategist of Growing Your Team, and she is an expert in hiring and onboarding teams within small businesses. So she draws from over 15 years of leadership experience and teaches her clients how to hire their early team members, including employees and long-term contractors. By learning the dynamics of each company and their specific needs, she helps them find their perfect fit, long-lasting team members and avoid the dreaded hiring and firing cycle that none of us like. So, Jamie, that is really, really valuable. And I know one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you on the show is because I believe wholeheartedly that you do need to grow your team when you want to scale your business. And I know that's something that you talk about a lot as well. So I'd love to start this conversation with that and what your perspective is on why you think that's so important when you want to scale.
Yeah, so I think, to me, it's pretty obvious. You can only do so much. So if you want to scale, you can't do it all yourself. You need other people to help you out. And of course, that looks different for every business of what type of help, employees, contractors, and everything. But the fact of the matter is, you can't do it all. You need other hands to help you, whether that's helping you with small tasks in the back end, whether it's helping you with serving clients, whatever it looks like for your business, it's super important. And even I know there's a lot of philosophies out there. It's like, well, you can scale by doing group coaching or doing these other VIP days instead of one-on-one clients, or all these other things of how to scale. But at the end of the day, even the successful people who run those types of businesses have people helping them. They're not doing it all by themselves. People are helping those successful business owners succeed every step of the way.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think that having a team is absolutely critical. And honestly, it's really great to have a team. I don't know about you, but I enjoy having a team. I love my team and I wouldn't want to run my business without them. Do you feel the same way?
Yes, I definitely do. There's things in my business that I was really hesitant to delegate at first. We always get that thing, we get attached to the things and we're like, oh, is someone gonna do it as well as I did it? And you tell yourself, okay, we just got to try. And now I'm just like, oh my gosh, thank goodness I don't have to do that myself. For example, I have my podcast and I have gotten out of, besides recording, all of my guest episodes. So all the editing, all the posting, all the publishing. And it's so nice to be able to be like, oh, that's done. And I didn't have to do anything to get it up after we stopped recording.
I could not agree more. And there are so many steps that go into producing a podcast episode. If I had to do them all myself, I would not have a podcast.
Right?
So, what are some signs for somebody, maybe they have not yet made their first hire and they're looking for, how do I know if it's the right time? Or maybe somebody does have a small team, but they're recognizing that maybe they need to grow it. What are some of those signs that it's time to make that next or first hire in your business?
Great question. And there are 4 main signs that I want you to look for in your business. And I also want you to make a conscious effort to look for these signs because sometimes we get so busy in the day to day that we ignore the signs that are right in front of us. So I always tell people once a quarter, sit down and review these signs to see if you have them in your business, so you don't hurt yourself by not hiring when you should because you're just going through the motions. But real quick, the four signs of: one, you're saying no to your ideal clients. Or if you're um, a a product-based business, your products are going off the shelf and you're having a hard time keeping up with demands. So this isn't saying no to clients you don't want to work with, those ones that are going to weigh you down and make you unhappy. These are clients you're like, yes, I would love to have this person as a client of mine, but you can't help them. They want to give you their money now. And you're either saying, no, I can't help you. Here's someone else that can support you. Or you're saying, well, I can, but I have a wait list. So 3 months from now, hopefully you still have this problem. Hopefully you still want to work with me and we'll talk then. It's like, no, if people want to give you their money now, find a way to take it. And normally that's by hiring help so you can grow your capacity of number of clients you can work with. The second sign is that you're losing customers, and typically that's due to poor customer service. So this can look one of two ways. The one is you're not giving your clients the same level of service that you used to be able to. Your responses are taking longer. They're reaching out and maybe it used to take you 24 hours to get back to clients. Now it's taking you 3 days sometimes to get back to clients. And they're just not feeling valued anymore. They feel like they are on the lower end of the totem pole when it comes to your client priorities and everything, that it's always taking a long time to get to them. So they're going to say, well, if you no longer really have time for me, I'm going to take my business elsewhere. So they're not renewing their contracts. Or they might actually be verbalizing the fact that they don't feel valued anymore. And then the flip side of this is you can't get back to inquiries fast enough. So by the time you reach out to say, hey, let's have that call, you respond to their email, or that discovery call is a week or so out. And by the time you get on that call, they've already gone with somebody else. They found someone else who can provide them what they need in what is seen as a faster manner for them, that this other company has time for them. So that's sign number two. Sign number three is that you want to do something new in your business, but you can't. So we talked about podcasts. Both of us have someone helping us with our podcast. If we had to do it all ourselves, we would look at that and be like, oh my gosh, like this podcast, I can't do that. Like, I want to do it. I see how it benefit my business, but I can't. So your choices are don't do it at all or hire someone to help you. And it could be someone to help you with that new thing you're adding, or hiring someone to help you with your current business so you can focus on that new thing, whether it's a course, a new service offering, a new product, something that you're going to offer that's new that you need time so you can focus on it. And then the last one is you lack skill or knowledge. Yes, as business owners, we have to learn a lot, but there comes a point in our business where it's more valuable to pay someone to do it than to take the time to learn how to do it ourselves. Because not only do you have to learn how to do it, you possibly have to practice it. You might not like what you put out, so you're going to spend a lot of time revising it, reworking it, doing everything. And it still might not be 100% because you're not the expert there. So it's find someone who can do it for you so that way you can spend your time on more valuable stuff.
Yeah, those are such excellent points and just so important. So I love that you shared those. And one of the things I see so many people do is they'll go out and they'll try to learn Facebook ads, or they'll try to learn something along those lines because they don't want to hire. But meanwhile, I'm pretty sure for all of you listening, unless there's a few of you out there who are actually Facebook ads managers, that is not aligned to your strength, your zone of genius, or something that you would enjoy doing in the slightest bit.
Right?
So,
Right.
why do you think people resist hiring and do try to take on those things and learn things themselves instead of building out that team?
Yeah. So the number one thing is the cost. We look at that dollar sign and we're like, whoo, is that worth it? And it can be hard to see sometimes at first, but there's an ROI with everything you should be putting your money into. You're going to get some sort of return on investment. And if you spend your money in the right places, hopefully that return on your investment is going to be that you're going to make more money than you're paying out. But there's still it's that dollar sign. We look at it and say, well, if I pay someone for this, maybe I take home less money. Or if I pay someone for this, what happens if it's not the right investment and I lose money on this investment? And we're very hesitant to actually pay people. I have found when I talk to business owners that they are more likely to pay money on tools that they never use than to pay money to have someone do a task for them. And sometimes people are paying a lot of money on tools that they don't use, but for some reason they feel more comfortable for those tools because they feel like they're in control versus like having someone else where you're handing over control. And so that's the other thing is control. It's like you're no longer doing it. So is someone going to do it the way you want? Are they going to meet your expectations? Are you going to be happy? And that's like the biggest thing. It's all these what ifs that really hold people back.
Yeah, that's so true. And so let's say you're at that place today and you say, you know what, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to actually go out and try to hire somebody. How does somebody make sure that they find the right fit for their particular business, their particular leadership style? How do you go out and find that right fit new employee or new contractor if you do make the decision to do so?
Yes, good question. So the first thing is to become really clear on what you need help with and then what success looks like in that position in your business. I've seen so many people where they say, "Hey, I need help." And they're like, I'll figure out what type of help later. I need someone to come in and help me figure it out. I'm going to hire, like, for example, a virtual assistant, and they're going to help me organize things and figure out what they'll actually do for me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, don't do that. You're wasting your money. Chances are it's not going to work out. So you really need to figure out what exactly do you need help with? What are you willing to hand off and delegate? What is going to make that big impact on your business and help move the needle forward versus just handing off any sort of task. So once you figure out what this person really needs to do, like I said, also figure out what does it mean to be successful in your business? How are you going to evaluate whether they're doing a good job? How does them coming in actually support you? What are the impacts? What's going to happen and everything because they are there. How do you want to interact with that person? Because that starts with making all the difference. Because you have to first start with what do you want them to do so you know what category of help you're looking for. But then there's so many people in that category of help. So you need to figure out how does that person succeed in your business, including you being happy to pay them continually, and then that will help you narrow down to the right person. Because one of the things I always say is just because someone's great at what they do does not mean they're right for you. So we can look at this two different ways. You hire someone who's great at marketing, but if what you really need is someone on the back end doing a whole bunch of admin work so you can show up for your clients more, that person that's great at marketing is going to be a waste of money for you to hire because it's not the help you need. But then let's say you figure out I do need this admin help. Okay, this person's great at doing admin work and this other person's great at doing admin work. One of them is going to be the perfect fit for your business, who you're going to be happy with. The other person is just not going to fit for your business. You're going to sit there and say, well, the work that they're doing is great, but I just can't stand leading them. I can't stand them being on my team. And it feels like you're in this constant mode of conflict versus working together and able to move your business forward.
So, what do you think about personality tests and if those are helpful in kind of weeding through who that right fit client is for your particular role and for your business itself?
Yes. So personality tests, I have mixed feelings on. And first, I'll start off with saying I think personality tests give you so much valuable information if you're doing the right ones and you know how to interpret the results. But the reason why I'm always hesitant about suggesting people use them in the process is most people use them incorrectly,
Hmm.
meaning they use them at the wrong times and they don't actually know how to use the results. So they're like, for example, Enneagram, they might be like, well, I'm an Enneagram 3. I understand the basics of the other numbers. So I want to look for people who have this result. But that doesn't actually tell you anything. It doesn't actually tell you if that person's good at what they do. Even with other personality tests that give you different types of information, they tell you basic information about the person, but it doesn't actually tell you how they apply that information, how they apply kind of those skills or anything like that in their work. So when people try to do personality tests, one of the mistakes I see is they'll say when people go to apply, tell me your results for this test. Go take this test, and they attach it with your cover letter. Do things like that where they want this information so early in the process. And that just doesn't work, because when people try to use it so early in the process, they're looking for specific things on that test, on those results, to weed candidates out. But the thing is, it's not a good thing to weed candidates out that early, because you have no idea what this person is actually capable of. You don't know what they're successful at. When I was a manager in corporate, we did a personality test once with my team of account managers. The results were across the board. Almost every different personality combination. If you think of some of the basic like letters, because we did a disc profile, the different combinations of letters we had on that team, my team was highly successful. We had a high achieving team. But if you just look to say this type of person, this result is going to be successful, you would have weeded out half my team, because they didn't have that personality, but they could still do the job. They just did the job and approach things differently. So when you use it too early in the process, you're using a lot of biases to kick people out of the process that deserve to be in the process. So my advice is, if you're going to use personality tests, use them at the end. And then what you want to do is make sure you have a conversation with the candidate after you have that test. So don't have it be like the very, very last thing and say, now I got the results, I'm making my decision. Have a conversation to talk about what came up. So if there's something there that you're concerned about, you ask about it. Maybe it shows that they can be very competitive in the workplace. And you're like, well, we have a team environment. I don't want people who are competitive against each other. But you find out, because you ask them the right questions, to find out that how they interpret being competitive in the workplace is achieving deadlines, making sure the client is satisfied, that it is that client satisfaction mark that is how they're competitive. And they're competitive on a personal scale, where they're constantly competing against themselves to ensure that they're getting those high marks from a client and everything. So it might not be that they're competing with team members. It could be that they're competing with themselves or other things in the workplace. Other people have learned to kind of have separation. They know how to mitigate what could be seen as negative things in their personality in the workplace, but it comes out more at home. So it's like when people are in different environments, different things of the personality can come out. So use them at the end. And then for small business owners, the other way to use them is, if you have multiple candidates that you like that have gone through the entire process and you're trying to decide which one to hire, you can use those personality test results to see who will be easier for you to manage. And when you're having a small team, especially if you're newer to leading team members, having someone on your team that's easier for you to manage is going to make a big difference. Is the other person capable of doing the job? Yes. But is that other person going to take more of your time and effort? Possibly. So if you're having to decide between candidates, that's a way to use the test.
I love this perspective and I love everything that you shared. And I think so many people I've seen use personality tests as a way of weeding candidates out up front. And I agree with you fully that it's a little too early to do that. The one place I've seen it work really, really well was there was this consulting company that I had helped do a lot of interviewing and hiring for, and they used the color code test. And what they would do is they would use the person's test results to help guide the questions they asked during the interview, to dig into what their strengths were and where they saw that the person might have some challenges in the role based on their profile, and to really prod and see if it was truly something they should be concerned with or not. And so if you looked at the people they hired, they actually were across the board, but they used that test to guide the questions and kind of prod into those potential problem areas, and to confirm that they had the strengths that they were looking for. That's the one company that I've seen use it really well, whereas I've seen most people do what you described, which is more of the weeding people out probably a little too early in the
Yep.
process.
Yeah, I love that, and I love the way that you describe them using it, and that's exactly right. You use those results to guide your questions, and it might still be that you're trying to figure out the same type of skills and experiences between your candidates, but you ask slightly different questions, or you dig into slightly different things to really determine, do they have what you need? And that also kind of brings up a good point of like, using them too early in the process means that either you're having your candidates do free tests or really cheap tests, because you don't want to pay for a lot of candidates you're not really interested in to take these tests, which means the results you get are very basic and probably really not telling you a whole lot. So the when you do them later in the process, you can spend a little bit more to get the better results for tests because you're not having 50 plus candidates doing it. You're not having 10 candidates doing it. It might be your top 2.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's such a smart approach. I'm so glad that you shared that just because I actually really like using the personality tests. I think there's a lot of benefit to it, but I just see so many people using them in ways that don't actually support them in the interview process. So I
Yeah.
love the approach that you shared. And I agree, the paid tests are so much better. So if you
Yes.
can use them with just your final candidates, what a great way to help you make those decisions. So excellent. Now tell us about your hire framework. So, what is this framework, and how can somebody use this to really set themselves up for success in the hiring process?
Yeah. So the hiring framework takes you through each step of the hiring process. So you make sure you get the right person. So, like we talked about, not just someone who can do that type of task, but someone that you're going to be happy with. So it brings you through the entire process from that initial brainstorming to onboarding your new team member. And there's 4 parts of it that go along with hire. So the first part is your hiring details. This is where we really dig in and find out who is it that you should be hiring. So really becoming clear on the roles and responsibilities, clear about what success looks like in the workplace, and everything to figure out who it is that you need to be going after in this hiring process. The next step is what we call initiating the advertising plan. So you know who you want to hire in that H step. Now you need to attract that person. I always say that hiring is a lot like marketing. You need to put out the right message to the right person and put it in the right places. Otherwise, what's the point? No one's the right person doesn't see it. You could have the best message in the world and it doesn't matter. So the initiate advertising plan, this is where we go through and we create job postings. Because a job posting is more than, hey, we're hiring, come work for us. You really need to tell people what the role is and who's going to be right for that role. We are in a market right now, and I don't really see it changing anytime soon, is candidates are really in control because there's lots of jobs out there and people are really trying to figure out where are they going to be happy? We've had a lot of people leave jobs recently because the job they're in, it's okay, but it really doesn't speak to them in the course. They're trying to figure out where do I want to work so I can be happy? So candidates are being very critical about which positions they apply to, especially the good candidates. So you need to make sure that your job speaks to the right candidate and candidates read that job posting and either say, "Yes, this is a job for me. I'm so excited to apply," or say, "Nope, I might be looking for example a project manager role, but that's not the project manager role for me. I'm going to pass and go apply somewhere else." It's okay to have low applicant numbers as long as they're the right people. So we don't need 200 people applying for a job. If we can get 10 great amazing candidates, that's better because we spoke to the right people when we put out the ad. Then we go into R, which is the review process. So once you start getting candidates applying, you need to make sure that they're the right person. Just because someone thinks that they're right for the role, they think it's the right position for them, doesn't mean they're actually the right person for you. So R is, how do you review a resume? So you make sure that you're only spending time with candidates that deserve an interview. And then what do you ask during an interview to make sure you uncover the right things? Like we already talked about some questions and stuff and tying questions to what on the personality test results to what you really need to find out. One of the things I see a lot of people get into trouble with is they don't go into an interview with any sort of plan. They say, "Hey, I have an hour-long meeting with the candidate. I'll just make up questions on the spot." What happens? You don't ask about the right things. You don't uncover the right information. Or they ask questions that are very generic. They go out to Google and say, "What are the top interview questions for this type of position?" And yeah, you could come up with a list of questions, but does it actually uncover what matters for you, for your position inside your company? So R is all about let's review the candidates and narrow it down to the right person so you can make that hiring decision. Then we move into the fourth part, which is expectations for success. So you need to get a candidate up to speed in the role. You need them to be able to start doing the work that you hired them to do. Otherwise, you're wasting your money bringing them on and giving them a paycheck or, paying that invoice if they're a contractor. So, how do you get them up to speed quickly? How do you determine what your expectations even are? So, if this is the first time you're having someone in that role, what does it mean for them to be successful? And how do you actually measure it in the business? And then how do you communicate those expectations to that new team member so they can get up to speed quickly and start producing work of value without you feeling like you have to spend all your time when they start in order to onboard them properly?
Yeah, that's such an excellent framework. And there's so many great points that you covered there. But the thing I really, really liked that you said, especially, is that you don't need 200 applicants. You need, some good quality applicants, because I'll hear that from people a lot, is not really getting a lot of people applying. And sometimes it's because their job posting could use some work. But a lot of times it's just simply because they did such a good job with their job posting that they're naturally weeding out the people who are the wrong fit people right from the beginning, which is great. So I think that's so good. And now tell me, what do you do and how do you support your clients throughout the entire hiring process end to end?
Yeah, so at growing your team, we currently serve our clients in three different ways, and it depends on what type of support they're looking for throughout the hiring process. So, our basic level, it's really for the business owner or hiring manager who knows how to hire, who knows how to make successful hiring decisions, but they're not good at writing job postings, or they really realize their job posting is not connecting to someone outside the company. They don't want to spend time researching interview questions and creating those interview guides. So we come in, we we kick all our processes off with really figuring out and helping them define who it is that they're hiring, that idea candidate avatar, and then we write the job posting that speaks to that candidate, and we write the interview guides that are going to uncover the right information. And we also provide them an advertising plan to say, here are some places you can possibly post this job to get it in front of the right people so the right people know you're hiring and they can apply. Our next level is our one on one consulting. So, this is for the business owner or the hiring manager that doesn't feel confident about the hiring process. Maybe they're brand new to hiring and they know that there's a lot that they don't know. Or you've hired before, but it hasn't been going well. You're always getting bad hires. You feel that you need to learn a lot in order to make a good hiring decision. So after we create all that kind of hiring strategy, the advertising plan, the job posting, the interview guides, we then work with the client one on one to guide them through the entire process, to help them each step of the way, answer their questions, make sure they're making the right decisions, teach them how to review a resume, teach them how to interview and everything so they can feel confident, not only that time when they're making their hiring decision, but apply it in the future so they're confident every time they go to hire that they'll get the right person. And then our top level of how we help our clients is through full service recruiting. So this is for the business owner that's like, yes, all that's great, but I just don't have time to do it myself. So we take over the beginning stages of the hiring process. So after that job posting is created, we post the job, we do all the sourcing of candidates, we review every resume that comes through, and we complete the initial interview. So when we hand candidates over to our clients, it's the top candidates that are worthy of our clients' times. They can just have a few interviews and make their hiring decision.
I love all of the way that you support entrepreneurs at those various levels, because our needs do change, and sometimes we may love to interview, we may love to hire, we may love all aspects of that, but it is just not in our priority list based on other projects and other things going on. And sometimes we do need more support throughout that entire process. So I love that you support people in each of those different ways. And tell us what else is going on in your world. Like, what's coming up next for you? Anything big on the horizon for this year?
Oh goodness. Let's see. So, if with growing your team, we can pretty much keep everything pretty consistent with what we're putting out. The exciting thing is we do have the Growing Your Team podcast. So there's always new content coming out, and we are launching the Growing Your Team blog. So, if listening to podcasts and everything is not right for you, very soon, or possibly it'll be out in the next few weeks now. So, it'll possibly be out in live that we'll have the Growing Your Team blog if you want to read content or just get quick content information that you can scan through so you can make the right decisions and feel knowledgeable throughout the hiring process.
I love it. That sounds excellent. And I'm sure it will be value packed as everything you produce is. So I am super excited to ask you the one question that I ask every guest. And so, how do you work smarter, not harder, and keep things lean in your business?
Yeah, so I would say the first thing is delegating, but the way to keep things lean in the business, because you don't just want to delegate anything because it might not be worthy of it, is really figuring out before I delegate something, is this something that deserves to still be going on in my business? Is it worth paying someone else to do it? And looking at also at the lens of, if I pay someone else to do it, being the owner of my business, I can look at it as that person makes a lower hourly rate than I do. Is it worth them doing it? Is it worth paying that? And if it's not worth me paying that person to do it, is it really worth my time to get this done? There has been a lot of my business where I'm like, that is great for other people, not for me. So, for example, I used to be a part of a group that we'd get together on Clubhouse on Fridays and do these business talks. And I finally realized that Clubhouse was not right for me. It was not where I wanted to spend my time. I didn't care to put the effort into grow a following on Clubhouse or go into other rooms. And I'm like, why am I still doing this if it doesn't actually support my business? It's a great tool for other people. It is not right for me. I'm going to say no to it. And then when it comes to certain things in my business, like I mentioned, delegating, because it is right for my business. It's just not worth my time. It's worth my money to pay someone else to do it for me.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Gosh, Jamie, I feel like we could talk for days on all things hiring. I love your perspective and the way that you guide people through the process. But let's round things out here with one final question. And that is, do you have any final tips for people if they are going to be hiring their first person or growing their team this year?
Yeah. So I think I mentioned it multiple times. Well, definitely is just becoming very clear on who you want to hire and your expectations for success. And then translating that over until after you make your hiring decision, communicating your expectations to that team member. Don't make assumptions that just because they've done a similar role for someone else before, that they're going to come in and be a rock star for you on day one. You need to take time to onboard that person properly. You need to take time to train them on what it means to do the role inside your business, what your expectations are. Because I'll tell you, even though there's things out there that some workers are lazy and all this stuff, no one wants to do a bad job. No one wants to be let go from a position, especially when they're brand new to that role. People don't want that. What they do want is to succeed. And you have the power to help them succeed because you have the power to give them the information they need to know so they can be successful. If you hold back that information, chances are they're not going to be successful because they're going to be measuring their success on different metrics than what you're measuring their success. As one of the things I like to say, if you don't set the expectations, your employees will, and chances are their expectations will be different than yours. So you know what you want when you hire that team member, communicate it to them. And sometimes you have to communicate it more than once because people interpret things differently than you do. So, but communicate to them, be clear on the expectations. So when you hire someone, they can be a great long term fit that you're happy to give your money to.
Ah, I love it. Jamie, thank you so much value in this interview. I so appreciate you being here. Please tell everyone where they can find you and where they can check out your podcast.
Yes. So the website is growingyourteam.com. The podcast is the Growing Your Team podcast with Jamie Van Cuyk. It's available on all major podcast and platforms, or you can go to growingyourteam.com/podcast and find all the episodes there. And on the social media platforms that we are a part of, you can find us under Growing Your Team. So check out Growing Your Team on any of the platforms, and we'll most likely be there.
Excellent. You can find all of those links down below in the show notes. Jamie, thank you again so much for being here. And everyone, we will see you again next week. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. I hope you got a lot of value and actionable insights from today's show and would love if you take a moment to leave us a review. If you have any questions on today's episode or on how to lean out your business, join us over in our private Facebook community where every week we do live training and Q&A, and I'd love to have you be part of the conversation. head to leanoutmethod.com/group to join us. And before you go, be sure to subscribe to the show so you're the first to know when we release a new episode. We'll see you next week.